Welcome to part 2 of our 1000 subscriber special video. I hope you enjoyed listening to Dennis talk about his 10 favorite video games in a little look into his gaming life. Now it's my turn, my top 10 favorite games of all time. Before I get into my list though, I just want to take a moment to say thank you to all of you who have subscribed. 1000 subscribers is incredible. We've been at this for a while and growth has been a little slow, but it still amazes me that people tune in to hear us talk about our favorite gaming hobbies. Really quick note, I'm only including one game per franchise, otherwise it'll all be the same shit over and over. I don't really believe that perfect games exist and that many games on my list do have issues, but these are games that I would personally consider near perfect 10 out of 10 type games. Anyways, on to the top 10. At number 10 is Payday 2. This is the only game that I share in common with Dennis's top 10. Payday 2 is a co-op shooter similar to that of Left 4 Dead or Killing Floor, in which you and 3 others rob banks, cook meth, rig elections, fight with rival cartels, and kill more cops than can possibly exist in any United States district. Payday 2 is my most played game of all time, clocking in at over 600 hours at the time of this video. That's a lot of fucking crime. The game features dozens of guns and melee weapons to use, a bunch of playable characters including John Wick, Bodhi from Point Break, Jimmy from Hardcore Henry, Scarface, Ron Perlman, and my personal favorite, Jacket from Hotline Miami, as well as a cast of unique original characters including 5 original heisters, Dallas, Hoxton, Houston, Chains, and Wolf. In what other game can you find John Wick, Point Break, Hardcore Henry, Reservoir Dogs, Scarface, Hotline Miami, and Left 4 Dead all connected in the same story? You can make your heister play how you'd like by leveling up and adding skills to 5 different skill trees, including Mastermind, which focuses on health buffs and crowd control, Enforcer, which focuses on ammo and armor buffs and heavy weapons, Technician, which focuses on armor recovery buffs, and gadget skills like upgrades to drills and saws and the use of trip mines and turrets. Ghost, which is all about stealth, and lastly Fugitive, which focuses on survivability and light weapons. Then you have a dozen different perk decks to pick from, which give additional stat boosts and buffs. All this comes together to provide a deep and robust shooting game that gives the player a lot of options to build their heister in a way that suits their playstyle. I like playing as a ghost-focused build with an emphasis on dodge and low detection and high speed. I love being able to zip around a map, but of course that means I'm a little bit of a glass cannon. I go down quickly. But since this is a team-focused game, that's where the builds of my friends come in, so we can all offset each other's strengths and weaknesses and build a team that functions well together. Missions can be done in a variety of ways as well, with stealth focus, loud focus, a mix of both. Doing mission stealth is always more satisfying to me and provides a lot of challenge in certain missions, but I like going in loud too and treating the game more like a traditional shooter. I love the variety of the missions. Some are simple bank heists, some see you taking on the Russian mob, some see you cooking drugs to see how long you can hold out, some see you jumping out of a plane, one sees you robbing an Alesso concert. There's even Halloween missions and Christmas missions. There's over 80 different jobs and 7 different difficulties to master, so there really is endless fun when it comes to Payday 2. This game, along with another entry on this list, also helped get me into electronic music. As someone primarily into metal and rock, I never really got into electronic growing up. That changed playing this with Simon Vicklin's amazing soundtrack. It's high energy, it's in your face, aggressive music that just gets you pumped and sets the mood for heisting. This game is great on its own, but what really sets Payday 2 apart from other games is what it meant to my friends and I as a group. This was a game that we all played together online the most. Much of my college years was spent playing this game with my friends and brother and cousins online. We would play it for hours on the weekend. It was the ultimate bonding experience. As Dennis said in this video, we even cosplayed as a group together. I was Jacket. The game has changed a lot from when we started playing it, but I will always have good memories surrounding this game, and I spent a lot of time playing it with people that I cared about. and I see myself playing it for the foreseeable future, until Payday 3 releases, and then I will happily put another 600 hours into that game too. Believe it or not, when I first started making videos years ago, I originally wanted to be a Payday YouTuber. I ended up not doing that, but many of my early videos on my solo channel were about Payday, Crime Fest, and playthroughs of new heists. Maybe when Payday 3 comes out, I'll shift focus and do a lot of videos about builds or heist guides or something like that for that game.
Stop fucking around, get up.
Look at this. I'm rich. It's payday, fellas! I said it's fucking payday, motherfucker!
Number 9. Star Wars Battlefront 2. Star Wars games at their peak. There are a lot of great Star Wars games: the Dark Force and Jedi Knight series, Bounty Hunter, Knights of the Old Republic, Republic Commando, hell, I even really like Jedi Fallen Order, but none of them hold a candle to Battlefront, the original Battlefront, not EA's schlock. I love Star Wars. I've been a fan my whole life, watching the original trilogy at a young age. My grandmother had, and still has, the original theatrical versions of the trilogy on VHS, and I grew up with the prequel trilogy too. I ate, slept, and breathed Star Wars growing up, having lightsaber duels with my friends, watching the old Clone Wars miniseries, reading the young adult novels like Jedi Apprentice and Bounty Hunter, and at the center of all of it was Battlefront. More specifically, Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2 captured my childhood imagination and fascination with Star Wars in a way that has never been replicated since. It gave such a large-scale and engaging look into the battles and conflicts of the Star Wars universe. You picked your faction, Rebels or Empire, Separatists or Republic, and controlled a ground unit engaged in galactic war, and it was amazing. Every faction had different classes to pick from with different weapons, equipments, and jobs to perform on the battlefield. Were you going to be a frontline soldier or a sniper picking off enemies from afar, or maybe an engineer repairing turrets and vehicles? Speaking of vehicles, one of the coolest things about Battlefront was the ability to pilot vehicles to turn the tide of battle. Battlefront 2 elevated the experience to new heights by introducing space battles, giving a badass dogfighting experience, and the ability to board enemy carriers to inflict damage to the inside of their ships. Battlefront 2 also lets you play as a hero, usually a Jedi or Sith, but it could also be someone like Han Solo or Jango Fett, attainable by doing well in battle. These heroes were broken and unbalanced, especially when facing off against normal soldiers, but who fucking cares? It was fun. Battlefront 2 also offered a bunch of different game modes. Conquest, which was a simple pick your map, pick your era, and have at it kind of game mode. This game mode was the core of Battlefront 2, which was the classic command post style game mode that we all know and love. Hunt, which pitted one army faction against a faction of local creatures like Ewoks or Wampas. Capture the Flag, which is capture the flag. Assault, which was basically a hero battle mode. There was also Galactic Conquest, which was my favorite game mode, which had a light strategy element that introduced different buffs to your armies, and you took over planets on a big map. And of course, Battlefront 2 had a story mode too. The story followed the 501st Clone Legion from the Battle of Geonosis all the way to the formation and conclusion of the Empire's defeat on Endor. I loved the story told from the clones' perspective growing up. It told a harsh story of war. I especially liked the parts about Order 66 and how the clones respected the Jedi but ultimately did what they thought was best. No stupid fucking mind control chips here.
It's been said that the 501st got the best of the war. We also got the worst. On Felucia, the Seps dug their metal heels into the muck of that alien hellhole and dared the Republic to come in after them. So we did. Only to be met with the month after month of flesh-eating diseases, shrieking nocturnal predators, and other sights that haunt me to this day. Cut off and for all we knew, abandoned by our superiors. Our only hope was Ayla Secura, our Jedi commander. Without her iron will, none of us would have come out of that mess with our sanity or our lives. When her death came, I hope it was quick. She earned that much.
I played Battlefront 2 originally on the PS2. I'd play it with friends and family split screen for hours. Such fond memories. I now have the game on PC, and I have to say modded Battlefront 2 on PC is glorious. Mods add endless gameplay possibility. There are mods which reintroduce game modes and maps from the first Battlefront, which I love. Being able to play on Battlefront 1, Bespin, and Kashyyyk is amazing. There are also mods which add eras to the game, like the Old Republic, the Yuzhan Vong, even the Clone Wars and sequel trilogy, and the best of all, the PC version still has servers online and a small community of players to play online with. I love it. The original Battlefront 2 represents a special era to me. A simpler time when Star Wars was just Star Wars. No, I'm a Star Wars Legends fan, or I'm a Star Wars Disney fan, or I like the Star Wars old EU, or yeah, I'm a Star Wars fan, but I don't really like the Disney stuff. It was just, I love Star Wars. I do know that some of that is a me problem, but I do miss that era of Star Wars, because it was a great time to be a Star Wars fan, and Battlefront 2 was a great game.
After disabling the final capital ship, General Kenobi and Skywalker took advantage of the opportunity we'd created and rescued the Chancellor. Took all the credit, too.
If you were to ask me what I thought the best stories in video games were, this next entry would be towards the top of my list. Probably my number 2, maybe even my number 1. This game has a fascinating, deep, layered story with a cast of likable, relatable, and interesting characters, all wonderfully voice acted. Above all, the story weaves masterfully with the gameplay, creating an interlocking narrative and gameplay experience that not many games have been able to match. That game is Conker's Bad Fur Day. You may think I'm kidding, but I legitimately love this game and legitimately think it has one of the best stories in all of video games. Conker's Bad Fur Day tells the story of Conker the Squirrel as he gets drunk, gets lost on his way home, avoids capture from an evil Panther King, helps out a kingdom of bees, swims in a pool of shit, helps a cow shit, chokes an opera-singing pile of shit with toilet paper.
I am the great mighty Pooh, and I'm going to throw my shit at you.
Visits prehistoric caveman dance clubs and pisses on people, fights a Terminator, kills a bunch of zombies, enlists in World War II against teddy bear Nazis, robs a bank with the powers of Neo from Matrix, and it's fucking amazing. Conker's Bad Fur Day is literal genius. Made by Rare for the N64, Conker looked and played like many of the mascot platformers at the time, like Croc or Spyro, or Rare's own Banjo-Kazooie. But while it looked like those games with its colorful world, googly-eyed creatures, and goofy music, Conker was a hard M-rated, mature adult game, full of swearing, blood and gore, sex jokes, extreme violence, binge drinking, and lots of poo.
Yeah, that is. Over there. Big bowl of poo.
I laughed my ass off the entire time when I first played this game. It's legitimately hilarious, and I still think it's funny on repeat playthroughs. I love the voice acting too. It's so different, and you can tell a lot of the characters are just voiced by the same person changing their voice. I actually really like it compared to the overdramatic, serious voice acting in some of today's games.
I've seen some kicking ass in my time, and that is the crappiest kick-ass I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was pretty crap. As kicking ass goes, it was abysmal, and you is a bastard, stupid bastard. Isn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he sure is. So, what are you gonna do now? Kill yourself? Because that's what I recommend.
Yeah, you should kill yourself. And Matt, we got a rope right here. Haven't we got a rope?
Yeah, we got a rope. There you go.
What kind of friends are you? In that case, I is gonna kill myself. I'm gonna kill myself right now. That's all there is to it. You.
What are you doing? You stupid bastard! He hasn't even got a neck.
Yeah, look at you up there hanging there. You stupid bastard. He ain't got a neck, are you? He ain't got a neck, has he?
I already said that. Shut up.
Oh, okay.
I don't believe this. I don't appear to have a neck of any description. In fact, I ain't got an esophagus.
Oh, diddle die damn. I was gonna be up here for some time.
Call me immature, I don't care. I miss humor like this. That gross Ren and Stimpy style humor that was still creative while crude. The kind of humor that makes you go, what the fuck am I playing? Genius, just genius. I made my girlfriend play through the whole game with me, and she had this appalled look of horror the entire time we played it. Like, she couldn't believe that Rare was getting away with some of the stuff that they did, and it cracked me up. Anyways, as mentioned, it starts off very collectathon-y, typical for the time, but as you go around this fun farm level, collecting bees, hitting cheese with frying pans, and avoiding getting stomped on by these blocks. But even early on, the game's dark sense of humor comes through.
I say, little fella, you better get this fat-ass bitch off of my back pronto.
I fucking die every time I hear this. And of course you get to bounce on the sunflower's boobs. Instant classic. But the game evolves to include swimming sections, third-person shooter sections with like the zombies or war segments, even racing segments or tank battle sections. The context-sensitive actions provide a lot of gameplay variation and really help set every level apart from one another.
Context sensitive. Clever.
Seriously, you need to play this game. I don't think I will ever play another game quite like Conker's Bad Fur Day. With its unique visual style, its complete schlock sense of humor, a mashup of different game and pop culture references and tropes that shouldn't work but do, it's truly one of a kind. And the multiplayer was really good too, harkening back to the days of glorious couch split screen. The game modes were all really fun. The heist mode was always my favorite, playing as weasels, trying to steal bags of money while killing other heisters. It's just classic. Anyways, yeah, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Amazing game, fucking hilarious. Definitely don't think it could be made nowadays, but you should definitely play it.
Stupid all I do all day is trying to sort his stupid problems out of the asshole. I hate that. Anyway, so what were we? The milk, the table. What shall we do? What shall we do with this? Clean slate. Yeah, clean slate. This anti-gravity chocolate is kind of working. That's voodoo. At the window with that.
Number 7 is a little game made by 3 people. A masterpiece of a game that became my obsession. That game is Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is an indie game made by Team Cherry, which, like I said, is 3 people. But I've already reviewed Hollow Knight in its entirety. I don't need to do a full review again. If you're interested in it, click on the link provided in the corner. Quick summation, Hollow Knight is a fantastically made Metroidvania featuring tight gameplay, challenging bosses, addicting atmosphere, amazing music, and gorgeous hand-drawn graphics. It is truly one of the best-looking games that I have ever played. Since I've already reviewed the game in full, I'll just skip right to how the game has impacted me. I absolutely love everything about this game. I mean, it wouldn't be in my top 10 if I didn't, but I have obsessed over elements of this game ever since playing. I have cosplayed the knight himself. I was one of the first, if not the first people to do so. It was the first cosplay that I really made by hand, and I have amassed a huge Hollow Knight collection since first playing it too. I have bought the game 5 times. Digitally on Steam, physically on PC via IndieBox, digitally on Switch via the Hollow Knight plushie, physically on Switch via Fangamer's Collector's Edition, and lastly physically on PS4 via Fangamer's Standard Edition. I have t-shirts, hoodies, posters, I have all 3 vinyl soundtracks, I have the journal from Fangamer and other knickknacks from various other Collector's Edition. Again, I love this game. I cannot wait for Silksong to release. I know I will get sucked into it just as much as I did with the first one, and from the trailers and teaser that they have put out, it looks great. Hollow Knight is one of those games that just surpassed all my expectations and is truly deserving of the title Masterpiece. Alright, here we go. Number 6, Hotline Miami. Press R to restart, press R to restart, press R to restart. Hotline Miami, man, this game changed my life. I remember getting it shortly after the Hotline Miami DLC came out for Payday 2. I got a coupon for it from Steam because I owned Payday 2, and I bought it. I binged it the entire weekend and instantly fell in love with it. Hotline Miami is the definition of addicting game design. The game is hard, and you die in just a few hits, but so do all your enemies, so it never feels cheap or unfair. It just requires you to look at the environments and learn how to successfully play the game. Part of what makes Hotline Miami so addicting is how immediate the game picks up again after you die. It brings you right back into the game with no load times or waiting. It helps maintain the game's overall fast pace and doesn't lose itself to downtime. The gameplay looks simple at first, but it's actually really deep the more you play it. You need to learn how different enemies attack and how different walls and windows and doors operate, what guns to use for different situations, how to quickly switch between guns, knives, bats, and fists to clear a room. Do you approach a floor stealthily or do you go in guns blazing? Stealthily is usually the safer route, picking off enemies one at a time to get through a floor safer, but then you don't get as many points. Once you get the hang of how it works, you can pull off some really cool combos to run up your score. Any game that rewards your violence with points is good in my book. Speaking of violence, this game is incredibly deep for an indie-style game like this, telling the story of a man who goes by Jacket, who finds himself answering mysterious calls from a secret society, taking jobs to kill Russian mobsters while slowly losing his sanity, set against the backdrop of the neon-soaked 80s. This game also ironically tries to question what violence in media means while simultaneously being gloriously hyper-violent in its execution. Great stuff. But this means more to me than just a fun game with great gameplay and engaging story and retro-style graphics. I said Hotline Miami changed my life. First off, playing through Hotline Miami was the moment where I realized I really liked indie games. Sure, I had played some others. Shovel Knight also comes to mind as being one of those where I made that realization. Hotline Miami solidified that games don't need a big budget, fancy graphics, a big name team behind them. Hotline Miami was made by two people, Jonathan Soderstrom and Dennis Whedon, also known as Dennaton Games. To me, Hotline Miami was just as good as any AAA game out there. Hotline Miami also continued planting the seed that Payday 2 did with getting me into electronic music, and sent me on a trip that has completely changed how I think of music now. The soundtrack for Hotline Miami consists of artists like Perturbator, Scattle, and Moon, and its sequel had even more artists like Carpenter Brute. Also, because of the game, I saw the movie Drive, which was said to have inspired the game. That movie was also amazing and featured a soundtrack with Kavinsky. These are all electronic artists that helped establish the subgenre known as synthwave, and I fell in love with synthwave because of this game, like head over heels. Again, as someone who was primarily a metal-only guy in high school and early in college, I listened primarily to like black metal and doom metal at the time. I felt like it was a little weird that synthwave would appeal to me so strongly, but I absolutely fell in love with it and still love it. Somehow it appealed to me in similar ways that metal did, but it was new and fresh and exciting, while also nostalgic and soaked in 80s cheese. I started buying synthwave CDs, vinyls, and cassettes, and ever since I've been attending synthwave shows and listening to synthwave music. Synthwave opened me up to other styles of music too. I began to appreciate other forms of electronic like chiptune and glitch hop and future funk, and I love those genres now. And of course, being a metal guy, I began to listen to industrial bands more as well. With the music being more dancey and accessible, I even began to listen to other metal bands and subgenres that I hadn't been into in a while, and it reinvigorated my love for melodic metal. I know this is kind of a tangent, and this has been more about the music than the game, but I wouldn't have found synthwave if it wasn't for Hotline Miami, and then I wouldn't have made the friends that I have for that genre. My band wouldn't have opened for synthwave artists like Ghost. It's amazing how different my life would be now if it wasn't for this game showing me what synthwave was. This is another game that I own multiple different versions of as well. I have the game digitally on Steam. I eventually got the big collector's edition box, which came with a disc copy for PC, as well as the soundtrack on cassette and a comic, and I have the Special Reserve Games Collector's Edition 2, which has Switch copies of both Hotline Miami 1 and 2. I also have both the soundtracks on vinyl. As mentioned in my Payday 2 section, I cosplay as Jacket. This wasn't just because of his inclusion on Payday, but also because of Hotline Miami. This is also why I choose to play as Jacket in Payday 2. I tend to like angry, aggressive characters in games, the Kratoses and the Doom guys, and I feel like Jacket fits right in there too. He's such an interesting character to me, and I love being able to play through his violence-soaked descent into madness. All right, here we are, top 5. We've already seen 5 great games, so these are the breast of the breast. Kicking off the top 5 is Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts came out in 2002, and I was in 2nd grade. This was during some formative years for me in terms of video games. I played and loved the first one. It was one of those games my friends and I would talk about at school, discussing lore, boss strategies, and secret locations. Then the second game came out and topped the first one in every single way. Now, I'm one of those guys who have played all the side games. I like Chain of Memories. I put Melody of Memory on my top games from last year, and I even really liked Kingdom Hearts 3. So yeah, I love this series, but 2 still sticks out as the best in the series. Kingdom Hearts is, of course, a mashup of Disney and Final Fantasy that shouldn't work, but does. I find the story fun, even if it is convoluted and makes no sense. I don't care, it's just fun. Kingdom Hearts 2's story continues from where Chain of Memories left off, continuing Sora's, Riku's, and Kairi's adventures, while introducing new characters like Roxas, Axel, Organization 13, the Nobodies, and a bunch of other Kingdom Hearts nonsense. Of course, there are new Disney worlds to explore too, including The Lion King, Tron, a retro Disney world inspired by short films like Steamboat Willie. I love how creative and different some of these worlds are, and of course, the soundtrack is top-notch as well. What really puts Kingdom Hearts above and beyond is its gameplay, though. Featuring the tightest and most complex combat in the series, it really feels great to play, and I love how deep the systems are with melee attacks, magic, summons, and newly introduced drive forms. Drive forms were basically more powerful forms for Sora that emphasized a different stat and gave him different abilities. Leveling up Sora's drive forms would even give him new abilities for his base form as well. And in these forms, you get to dual-wield Keyblades. That shit was just so epic. There are so many epic moments in this game. Riku and Roxas' duel, the big Heartless battle where all the Final Fantasy characters help you fight, and of course the 1000 Heartless battle. Not to mention the badass final boss teaming up with Riku. So good. Kingdom Hearts is another franchise of games that I would actually consider as having one of the best stories in gaming. I know that's crazy. I don't care how confusing and convoluted it is. I teared up playing the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. This is a series that I grew up with, and Kingdom Hearts 2 is the best in a great series. Number 4 is Warcraft 3. I've spoken about how much I loved Warcraft 3 in the past, how I think it's the best RTS of all time, how Reforged devastated me, but we're not talking about Reforged, no. This is the original, great classic, Warcraft fucking 3. I cannot stress enough how great this game is. At the time of its release, I thought the graphics were incredible. Yeah, it looks kinda bad by today's standards, and the character models, even at the time, were pretty basic, but seeing the portraits in motion was great. The particle effects from spells looked really good to me. Skeletons forming on the ground with blood spots was always fun. Blood even pooled up in the water. It was great. And the cinematics, oh man, they look good even by today's standards. Like with all games on this list though, I find it great because of its gameplay. It expanded upon the foundations that the first 2 Warcraft games and StarCraft laid to create what I think is the best RTS experience ever. Resource management is incredibly easy to grasp, and all 4 factions provide a different experience that is balanced and fun. I honestly love all 4 factions. They offer something different every time I want to play. Warcraft 3 is a game that's simple to learn but hard to master. I never got very good playing online. I'm bad at using hotkeys and I'm too slow to be considered a good player, but I enjoy it nonetheless. Hero units also add a fun variety to the game. Their inclusion adds a bit of RPG flair as you level them up, manage their spells, and equip them with items. I would put Warcraft 3 at the top of best stories in all of video games, right under Conker's Bad Fur Day. Maybe above it, I don't know. I love the story in this game. It's a little cliche. I mean, Arthas is basically Anakin Darth Vader, but it's such a good and engaging story, following Arthas' fall from grace as the beloved prince of Lordaeron to becoming the corrupted Dread Knight of the Scourge and Reign of Chaos, then following his quest to fulfill his destiny of becoming the Lich King in the Frozen Throne. It was unreal.
Behold, Muradin, our salvation. Frostmourne.
Halt, lad. There's an inscription on the dais. It's a warning. It says, "Whomsoever takes up this blade shall wield power eternal. Just as the blade rends flesh, so must power scar the spirit." Oh, I should have known. The blade is cursed. Let's get the hell out of here.
I would gladly bear any curse to save my homeland.
Oh, leave it be, Arthas. Forget this business and lead your men home.
Damn the men! Nothing shall prevent me from having my revenge, old friend. Not even you. Now, I call out to the spirits of this place. I will give anything or pay any price, if only you will help me save my people.
And all the other characters in this game are great too. Jaina, Uther, Muradin, Thrall, Grom, Cairn, Kel'Thuzad, Mal'Ganis, Tyrande, Malfurion, Illidan, Medivh. They're all so memorable. Seeing the conflicts of war, the rise of the Scourge and invasion of Archimonde in Reign of Chaos from the different points of view from the Human Alliance, the Orcish Horde, the Undead Scourge, and the Night Elf Sentinels was a really interesting way to tell the story. And then build to the Frozen Throne and introduce the Naga and the Blood Elves. It was great. Though I do wish the Naga was a fleshed out faction beyond the campaign. It's just a great fantasy story regardless. No discussion of Warcraft 3 would be complete without bringing up Battle.net 2. Battle.net was the bread and butter of Warcraft 3. If games kept track of how long you played them back then, I'm sure my hours in Warcraft 3 would even surpass Payday 2 for me. I played hours on Battle.net. The most popular mode, of course, was Dota, but I actually never really played Dota until Dota 2 came out. I was more into different kinds of tower defense modes and Hero Wars modes. Some of my favorites were Winter Mall, Lion Tower Wars, Orc Gladiators, the 9 Swords and Armor, and of course, Legion TD. It's a fucking shame that Blizzard destroyed this game with Reforged. If you want to play it in its pre-Reforged glory, I suggest my video on how to revert it back. I suggest using WC3 Connect if you want to play multiplayer. But anyways, yeah, I love this game. I still play it every year. Just thinking about it makes me want to play through it again right now. Number 3. Kirby's Adventure. Bet you weren't expecting to see a Kirby game on here, were you? Kirby's Adventure is one of the very first games I remember playing, ever. I had it on NES growing up, I loved it back then, and I still love it today. It's probably the easiest game on this list, but I don't care. Its charm, creativity, and overall fun still hold up. Kirby's Adventure is the second game in the series, but it's the first game that introduced Kirby's now famous copy ability. We all know what it is by now. Kirby can eat certain enemies and get their powers to overcome obstacles and defeat other enemies. As a kid, I used to eat everything and everyone to see what kind of crazy powers I could get. Of course, the copy abilities have been souped up in the future games, adding costumes, crazy finisher moves, the potential to mix abilities, and even give powers to a mech, but I still love the simplicity of the copy abilities in Kirby's Adventure. Kirby's Adventure came out towards the end of the NES life cycle, and because of that, Masahiro Sakurai and the team at HAL Laboratories were able to really push the NES to its fullest. In my opinion, Kirby's Adventure has the best graphics on the entire system. It showcased wonderfully detailed sprites, a wide variety of colors, and impressive backgrounds, visuals, and attack effects. Not only that, but it features some of the best music on the console too. What makes Kirby's Adventure so great is its simple yet addictive design. Like I said, it's not the most challenging game. Part of that is due to Kirby's ability to fly, making platforming challenges much less of a threat than other side-scrollers on the NES, but the challenge and fun from Kirby comes from the freedom the player has to experiment with different power-ups and finding different secret rooms. The levels are all really creative, showcasing a plethora of different themes and gameplay gimmicks, and of course, the boss fights, which require the most skill and strategy to complete, and as you play the game, you eventually learn that different copy abilities are better suited for certain fights. Every copy ability is fun to use though, other than sleep, which just causes you to fall asleep, but I find myself constantly switching through abilities as I play just because I like using all of them. These copy abilities increase replayability as well as you can come back and try different levels with different abilities. My overall favorite is the UFO. It's the rarest ability, you can only find it in a couple hidden areas, and you don't get to keep it upon finishing a level. UFO lets you fly around and also comes with two attacks, one which is like the beam attack and the other which is like the laser attack. I love how Kirby looks while transformed in the UFO as well. The final levels and boss are epic too. It's a surprising juxtaposition to go from this happy and bright world of Dreamland to fighting this vampire-looking wizard in space with the power to destroy stars, and getting to use the Star Wand is always a blast. This is another example of a game that I own multiple copies of. Of course, I mentioned that I own an original NES copy of the game, but I also have the game digitally available on Switch online, as well as digitally from the NES Mini Classic. I also have it on the Wii as part of the Anniversary Collection, and then I also have Nightmare in Dreamland, which was the remake of Kirby's Adventure for the Game Boy Advance. Kirby's Nightmare in Dreamland is the same game as Kirby's Adventure, but with enhanced 16-bit visuals more reminiscent of Kirby's Superstar, hats related to copy abilities, and some performance enhancements over the NES version like no slowdown. Also, the game features new minigames versus the NES version, but one of them is basically the same, just replaces the Western theme with a samurai theme. And Nightmare in Dreamland also has an unlockable mode where you can play as Meta Knight. Overall, Nightmare in Dreamland really is the definitive version of Kirby's Adventure, but I still like playing the NES version more, which admittedly I can chalk up to nostalgia. Regardless of what version you play, Kirby's Adventure is a must-play, and is one of my favorites in the series, and undeniably the best in the series, in my opinion, until Planet Robobot came out a few years ago, which has become my second favorite in the series. Number 2, Doom Eternal. The game you've been waiting to see on this list. You can see any of my many videos about this game to know why I love it as much as I do, but I'll reiterate some of it here. Doom is one of my all-time favorite video game series, and is my favorite first-person shooter series. Prior to the release of Doom Eternal, Doom 2 would have sat comfortably on this list, untouched by any FPS that had been released since. Then, Doom Eternal came out and took place as my favorite first-person shooter. Doom Eternal is simply amazing. It features the fastest, most chaotic, technical, and straight-up fun gameplay I have ever experienced in a first-person shooter game, or almost any game, period. With a diverse range of enemies to fight, well-designed levels, finely tuned combat encounters, and a wide variety of ways to approach every encounter, Doom Eternal provides the most satisfying gameplay experience I have had in years. I have played through the game dozens of times, mastering the game on Nightmare difficulty, and it never gets old. It provides the ultimate power fantasy experience and even has made me better at other first-person shooters. I'm just so happy and satisfied with this game. I love finding myself in the game's fun zone. I love the feelings of aggression and power. It's one of those ultimate stress reliever games for me. If I'm having a rough day, I know I can throw Doom Eternal on, run through a level or two, and just feel better. The Doom series has always been that for me. They're such easy games to just boot up and jump in and out of. I don't feel like I need to set aside hours of my day to play it, or that I need to focus too hard on it. I can boot it up, play it for an hour, and then go to sleep feeling satisfied, though I usually do spend more than an hour playing it. I could talk for hours about this game, and I have, so please check out my other videos if you want to hear me go deeper into the minutia of the game. These videos are the ones that got us to 1,000 subscribers. I can't thank the Doom community enough, so thank you all specifically for watching my content. It really does mean a lot. We started this channel with a review of Doom 2016, and I feel like with my Doom Eternal content, we finally found our stride. So, Doom Eternal was only my number 2. What the hell could possibly be number 1 then? What is a game that I enjoy more than Doom? The only game series that rivals Doom for my favorite is Mega Man. More specifically, Mega Man X, and my favorite installment is the first game in that series, the original Mega Man X. I don't remember the exact year that I played this game for the first time. I was young. I remember playing it on the Super Nintendo at my grandmother's house growing up, writing down codes in between levels so that I could continue them next time I visited. This game is an utter classic in every way, the definition of the term. The year was 1993. I wasn't born yet, but I digress. 6 Mega Man games on the NES had been released, 4 for the Game Boy. Mega Man was already a classic video game, loved by a lot of people. But after 10 games, people were looking forward to seeing what would happen with the Blue Robot when they made the jump to 16 bits on the Super Nintendo. And make the jump he did. But not as a direct continuation of the NES games, no. Mega Man X started something new. Faster, louder, more bombastic, and more extreme, Mega Man X blew everyone's expectations out of the water. It took the classic formula that Mega Man had established and amped it up to 11. Levels were bigger, sprites were more detailed, enemies were more abundant, bosses were more challenging, and a new, faster, stronger, cooler Mega Man known as X took center stage. Mega Man X is technically a sequel to the classic Mega Man, taking place 100 years after the events of the original games, but Mega Man X also spawned its own franchise as well, delivering 8 mainline games, 2 portable spin-offs, and an RPG spin-off, as well as a remake. The 2000s were such a great time to be a Mega Man fan, with multiple series all delivering satisfying gameplay experiences. Mega Man, Mega Man X, Mega Man Legends, Mega Man Zero, Mega Man Battle Network, and eventually Mega Man ZX and Mega Man Star Force all released games around the same time, giving old fans, new fans, and all fans in between the Mega Man experience that they liked. And I love all of them, though the X series has always been my favorite one. Mega Man X is what I would consider a perfect game. Its story is interesting, but out of the way. It's not super important to the overall experience, but it's there. The main focus of the game was definitely on the gameplay. Every level was expertly crafted and showcased amazing visuals on the Super Nintendo with great detailed sprites. The game provided incredibly fast-paced action and was easy to learn but left room to master, and you had to look for secret areas, upgrades, and learn how to defeat the bosses. The characters are all badass with great designs. I love the more edgy look that X has compared to Mega Man. I love Vile's design with his Mandalorian helmet. Sigma is such a great and imposing villain, and of course, there's Zero, X's best friend that you strive to match the entire game. He just oozes the cool factor, with his long flowing hair, spiky red armor. The cool factor is present with a lot in this game. It just has that perfect blend of 90s extreme hype that was popular at the time, but never goes overboard or feels cringy. And the music, oh my god, the music is among the very best of any video game I have ever played. One thing I love about this game, like genuinely love, is how it makes you feel like a badass the more you play it. When the game starts off, X is in his basic armor, you get your shit rocked by Vile, and then Zero shows up and blows his mech's arm off, and as you play more, you get new armor pieces, giving you the ability to dash and charge your buster more. You get more hearts to improve your health, and new weapons awarded by killing different Mavericks, and then by the end of the game, You have this badass new armor with all these new moves, learned how to dodge and attack, enhanced mobility techniques when fighting different bosses. Hell, you even get the Hadouken. And then, when you face off against Vile again, you're just like, fuck you, I am strong now. Amazing. Like with many games on this list, Mega Man X is another game that I have multiple copies of. I have an actual NES card of it, I have it digitally on the Super Nintendo Classic console, I have it on the PS2 Anniversary Collection, which is actually my favorite version of the game. I know that's controversial, but I really like the PS2 controller, I like how it performs on the PS2, and I like the uncensored dialogue changes. I don't care, the Anniversary Collection version of Mega Man X is my favorite. And lastly, I have the Legacy Collection on Switch. Mega Man X will probably always be my favorite game. It just provides a simply timeless experience that I enjoy playing through again and again. I try to play through it at least once a year. It's a quick game, you can finish it in a couple of hours, so play it. You owe it to yourself. Well, this was a long one. I hope you enjoyed this look into both my and Dennis's favorite games. Please keep liking, subscribing, and watching, and drop your favorite games in the comments below. Stay toasty.